Today we're talking about Mercedes' EQ family and specifically the problems with it. In light of the recent reveal of the EQE SUV, I decided it was high time to talk about this topic in more detail. The first problem is perhaps not all that obvious: the naming strategy, which is atrocious. Allow me to explain. The first Mercedes model to wear an EQ badge of any kind was the EQC, which first arrived back in 2017. Since it was the first one, there weren't really many questions about the name. After what felt like forever, Mercedes finally debuted their long-awaited Model S rival in 2020. The EQS. It wasn't an SUV, even though the EQC was, but the name still kinda made sense. It was the EQ, or electric version, of the S-Class, hence EQS. Then Mercedes came along with a smaller sedan, or a Model 3 rival. The EQE's name, once again, somewhat made sense. It was the EQ parallel to the E-Class. But then Mercedes' somewhat conventional naming strategy up until that point took a 50-meter nosedive down the toilet. The SUV equivalent of the EQS is called the EQS SUV. Literally, the word SUV is part of the name. And the SUV equivalent to the EQE, you guessed it. Of course you'd guess it, I just said that like 30 seconds ago. But then the EQA and EQB, which are based on the GLA and GLB class respectively, don't have SUV in the name despite being crossovers. To top this whole cesspool off, the company is not selling these vehicles as Mercedes-Benz models. These cars all fall under the new Mercedes EQ sub-brand. That means that the full name of the vehicle you're seeing on the screen right now is Mercedes EQ EQS SUV. It's the equivalent of calling this vehicle the SAIC Group MG Motor EHS SUV. As far as new electric vehicles from legacy automakers go, Mercedes are definitely not the only ones guilty of this. In fact, pretty much all of them are. I mean, have you seen Toyota's alphabet soup? Still, I think in terms of cohesiveness and making some semblance of sense, Mercedes is by far the worst. While Toyota's alphabet soup is still very confusing, at least this car isn't called the Toyota-BZ BZ4X SUV. Man, I got tired just by saying all of that. I think it's too late for them to change this, but think about it. How much better and less confusing would it be if this car was called the Mercedes EQ GLE? As long as you specifically point out the sub-brand like we do with AMG, it makes perfect sense. It's the electric SUV equivalent of the E-Class, and in Mercedes terms, SUV equivalent of the E-Class translates to GLE. So that's the naming convention. Now on to the second problem. This one is perhaps far more obvious, even if it is in the eye of the beholder. The design direction. It's almost hard for me to believe that in such a short amount of time, Mercedes knocked out 8, count 'em, 8 different electric cars, and all of them are ugly. Yep, I'm not calling these designs controversial, I'm calling them ugly. The two sedan models, for example, seem to take inspiration from Apple's Magic Mouse. We know why the shape is the way that it is. It minimizes drag, which improves range. But there are so many better ways of doing it. Just look at the EQS's competitors. The EQE, on the other hand, is somehow even worse. Because it's smaller and the wheels are so close to the corners of the vehicle, it just looks strange. The design/engineering choice to top up windshield washer fluid like you would top up fabric softener in a washing machine is an interesting one, to say the least. And then there are the SUVs. The EQA and EQB, which even Mercedes themselves seem to have forgotten about, look like their internal combustion engine counterparts. And while the EQA is fine, the EQB is based on a vehicle that makes me want to scream at any person driving it, "Why?" The EQC was never a looker, and the two newest ones somehow look even more boring and incohesive than a made-up SUV you would normally find in the parking lot of an apartment complex rendering. Mercedes is promising a Maybach version of the EQS SUV, and, well, the Maybach GLS is bad enough already, so let's not talk about that now. Finally, we have one more thing about the EQ family that needs to be addressed. You knew it was coming, weren't you? That's right, it's the Hyperscreen. Mercedes has always been a pioneer in the space of automotive features. There is a known saying in the automotive community that if your car has an advanced comfort or technology-related feature, it was probably first seen on an S-Class. The S-Class pioneered things like parking sensors, radar cruise control, automatic soft-close doors, and a lot more. Similarly, the new EQS is also being pitched as a pioneer of a lot of features. The Hyperscreen is a band of 3 giant screens that all come together under a single piece of curved glass. All the screens combined come in at 56 inches. And provided that you have the Hyperscreen equipped, which will cost you around $7,200 by the way, they control every aspect of the vehicle. Every single one. Pretty much. You may see this as a pioneer of technology and innovation, but me personally, I see it as the very embodiment of everything wrong with automotive interiors right now. About a month ago, I had the opportunity to get behind the wheel of a Tesla Model Y for about 20 minutes on a highway drive. I was doing 130 kilometers per hour pretty much the whole time, and the giant central screen was in my peripheral vision. You know what I couldn't do with the screen while traveling at that speed? Touch it. I did not even think about doing anything with the screen, even though I wanted to because the sun was blasting that day and the AC vents were pointing away from me. No, not possible. I wanted to just reach for the air vents and just move them with a physical control to keep my eyes on the road as much as I could, but it's not possible. I don't understand why some automakers keep pushing for screens everywhere when they are inherently dangerous. Maybe some people can figure out operating touchscreens while driving. I personally could not, and I think I'm not in the minority. I can't say I've spent a discernible amount of time with Mercedes' Hyperscreen, or any time at all, but I imagine it will have and does have the same problem. Please, Mercedes, drop this Hyperscreen bullshit and these completely neglected designs and give us a normal amount of screens and an equally normal amount of physical controls. Thank you. So that's going to be about it for my rant about the Mercedes EQ family, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on social media. There will be links in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.